Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line, where we unpack some of the main business and economic stories of the day. I am your host, Alexandra Marchewicz. History is in the making this weekend as Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania finally desynchronized from the Soviet-era electricity grid that has tied them to Russia and Belarus for decades. This transition has been a long time coming and arrives at a moment when geopolitical tensions are running high. And today we'll explore what this shift means for regional energy security. And joining me to discuss these developments is our guest, Rokas Masiulis, CEO of Litgrid. So let's dive in. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
So let's start with Baltic Synchro. Now, we are just hours away from the Baltic states moving swiftly to cut their dependence on Russia's power grid. Could you explain how critical this move is for your overall energy security?
It's a critical and the last one. If you look at history of Lithuania and Baltic states, so first we cut reliance from oil. If you remember the story when Orlen has bought our only refinery, Russians were not happy with that. They stopped oil supplies to our refinery, so we had to build an oil terminal in the Baltic Sea. So that was first step. Second step was when Russia was extorting very high gas prices because we had no alternative for gas. So we have built our LNG terminal on the Baltic coast, and electricity prices decreased significantly, gas prices, decreased significantly. So electricity is the last step. We were still connected to the Russian grid, and now it's time to cut those last types and stop doing any business with a country we cannot trust.
And it has been a long journey because the Baltic countries first signaled their readiness to the continental grid back in 2007, if I'm correct.
Yes, absolutely. Long way to go. A lot of stuff has been done in our countries. We have, you can even say, rebuilt our electricity network from east to south and west, because we were oriented towards Belarus, towards Russia. Now we are oriented towards Poland, because Poland is our gateway to Europe. So a lot of investment has been done to make that happen. So a lot of money spent, a lot of work has been done.
And well, we still have to mention that both Estonia, just such as Latvia and Lithuania, are synchronizing with continental Europe ahead of schedule. So what are the biggest, let's say, technical or logistical challenges that they face in speeding up this transition?
Construction projects was the biggest obstacle. Since advent of a journey, we had big problems like COVID. Also, when war started in Ukraine, we had to change our procurement programs. We were buying a lot of metals, concrete, and other simple but necessary equipment from Ukraine, also from Belarus and Russia. We're not buying anything from Belarus and Russia since then. Ukraine is not capable to supply such quantities they needed for themselves, so we had to find new sources to supply that. People were not able to travel during COVID. So last years were very, very difficult. We had to change a lot of things, but ultimately we succeeded. And as you correctly stated, we are even synchronizing earlier than expected.
So definitely we see that it's quite a success here. So I do have a question about potential vulnerability, because in between now disconnecting from the Russian grid on February 8th and then synchronizing with the continental grid on February 9th, the Baltics will be in so-called island mode. So it's to be in that mode every time something bad happens.
We're not afraid of that. We have been in such situation before. In 23, Lithuania alone did an isolated test. I would even say even more. We have tried to activate our generators from Warsaw with our colleagues and friends from PSC. We have worked a scheme when Polish system operators can start power plants in Lithuania. So if anything happens in Lithuania or Baltic states, Polish friends can help us. So we have tested many things already before. So this test is even simpler than before.
I mean, some mentioned that, well, there might be some difficulties because of the fact that there is only just one interconnector, the Lit-Pol link, and the S-link with Finland. But what else, to your mind, needs to be done in terms of interconnector to make Baltic grid more resilient?
We're building a lot of generation in Baltic states, especially in Lithuania, renewable, wind and solar. So generation is growing very fast here. Also, we're building a second line to Poland, so-called Harmony Link, which will be finished in 2030. So we are increasing those capacities. And Litpolink is a very powerful line. It has been built even bigger than we needed. So it's pretty secure. We feel very secure.
Now, Ukraine, I've noticed that Ukraine managed to do the switch that we talked about in 2022, but now in the case of the Baltic states, it was much longer. So why is that really?
Well, our system, as I told, our system had to be rebuilt almost anew to configure it from towards east, towards south and west. So a lot of investment has to be done. But also Ukraine was alone. We needed to agree with our colleagues. For example, our Estonian colleagues were eager to synchronize via Finland. Lithuania was insisting on synchronization through Poland. So we spent, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years arguing which way is the best. Ultimately, a Polish way was selected as strongest and most secure. So a lot of political discussions took a lot of time. Construction was not as long.
So now I wonder, because we do have to talk about technicalities to make our viewers more, let's say, familiar with the subject. What does it mean? Perhaps you have some details. What does it mean really to make that switch?
Actually, that switch is not as big. We are connected to Poland already for many years. And after synchronization, we will be connected to Poland. Only a small matter of technical details. We will use now we're using one part of a switch with Poland. After synchronization, we'll be using another. So nobody will feel anything. Technologically, most of the things are already done. For example, historically, we had 11 power lines with Belarus. Today, we have only one. So we've been preparing for this synchronization for quite some time. So we were cutting those lines, building new things, synchronous condensers, for example, a lot of new power lines. So last step is actually technologically not as big as people think.
Now, I would love us to talk about Lithuanian energy mix a little bit. So, according to International Energy Agency, in 2023, the country got 70% of its electricity from renewables, and that's a lot. I mean, compared to Poland, where more than 60% is from coal. So, how does your grid now manage with such a quantity of renewables? How do you manage when, for instance, the wind is not blowing?
We are importing electricity when wind is not blowing from Poland as well. But historically, our situation was very different from Polish. Before, we had one big nuclear power plant, which was producing 100% of our needs, even we were exporting electricity. When we joined European Union, we had to close this nuclear power plant because it was based on Soviet technology, which was deemed not secure. So we had nothing. We left without electricity. So not many options were left for us. Gas was not a very good option because we had to buy even more from Russia at that time. So we started building renewables as much as we can. We were pressed into the corner and we excelled. We did very, very well. So there is only option for us to build as much as we can renewable. When sun is shining, not shining, and wind is not blowing, we import. We import from Poland, we import from Sweden, we import from Latvia, from other places.
So now my next question leads me to it, because we do see that obviously all Baltic states are different. That with Lithuania we have 42% wind, Latvia it's 60% hydro, now Estonia is 45% coal. So are your grids interdependent? Like for instance, when the wind blows, you sell it to Latvia. When the wind is not blowing, Estonia sells you electricity produced from coal.
Yes, our systems are very much interdependent. Our power lines are very powerful, so we can exchange electricity easily. So when wind is blowing, Lithuania is supplying all electricity as much as we can to Latvia, further to Estonia, and maybe to Finland. If wind is blowing in Finland, electricity flows to Estonia, to Latvia, and then to us. So it's our inter-exchange of electricity is very powerful. The same as with Poland. After synchronization, of course, it will diminish, but after we'll build a harmony link, our interconnection with Poland will be as strong as with Latvia. Very powerful.
So most certainly we do see that Baltic states brace for multiple scenarios and manage to fulfill it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, and thank you for your expert insights.
Thank you very much.
And we were joined by Rokas Masiulis, CEO of Litgrid, and that was his bottom line for today. And remember that in the world of business, the bottom line is the only line that counts. Alexandra Marchewicz signing off. Goodbye.